First and foremost, happy Tuesday. This is the Tuesday before the week of Thanksgiving. So next week will be our last time having these fireside chats with Riot, which will be the week of Thanksgiving. So just because it's the week of Thanksgiving doesn't mean that we're completely on holiday just yet. This is the prequel to the last one that we have going on. So thank you to everybody that has joined on. We have our amazing Riot staff here. So we have Sam and Victoria. So thank you so much to them for joining. But wanted to first and foremost say thank you to all of the people that are here today. Thank you for signing up. Thank you for being a part of this. If you've been on every session, actually you can even just drop it in the chat or like show some type of participation or reaction to say, yes, I have been a part of all of them. Yes, I loved everyone, whatever you feel. But I want to say thank you to everybody that has been a part of these and the ones that will come up in the near future. My name is Justice Miranda. I am Director of Operations for Cxmmunity Co. We are a nonprofit that helps students get into the gaming industry. We do that through programming, education, but also things like this as far as networking and just special events to make sure that students are aware of the opportunities. We like to parallel it to like the music industry. You might know the producer, you might know the artist, but who knows the stage manager? Who knows the production manager? Who knows their marketing team? Who knows their legal representation? Probably nobody, right? But all industries still need that. And that is what we are here to expose, is the fact that the gaming industry is just like other industries where they need these different pipelines. So whatever it is that you are interested in, there is a place and a space for you in the gaming industry. I will always say of myself as a representative, I am a Bejeweled Till I Die, a Candy Crusher, all of that, while I have all of the heavy gamers, of course, on here with our Valorants and all of the above. So I know that most people will feel like when you get into this industry, you have to do game design or game development, and that's not the case. That's what we want to show to you all, is that there's so many realms within the gaming industry that you can enter into. Really, I'm a very big person about make your passion equal your profit. So that is what we are trying to do, is make sure that you know whatever you're passionate about, there's a way for you to get into the gaming industry through your passion. So I want to just quickly shout out the team that I have on here right now. So Luis is actually our programs leader. So he has an extensive background in esports and gaming, but he also is amazing with our curriculum and our student development side. So Luis, if you want to jump off mute really quick, say hey to everybody.
Hey everyone, thank you all for being here.
Awesome, he is the best. And then of course we have Julian, which is actually the co-founder of Cxmmunity Co and also our executive director. So Julian, if you want to hop off mute.
Hey everybody, good to be here.
That is Julian. We're in the same room, so apologies. He actually is behind me, so just super shout out to our executive director. Don't want to have the echo going on in your ears, but wanted to make sure that we shouted out our community team, but want to make sure that we have more than enough time for you all to get the necessary information that you need. So I will now pass it over to our Riot team. So Victoria, if you want to take it over, please feel free.
Yes, thank you so much, community. Thank you everyone for being here. We're really thrilled again to be here with you all. I'm Victoria Sanchez, the Diversity Community Program Manager. I use she, her pronouns. Joining me today are some incredible Riot staff members, and I'd like them to introduce themselves to you. So Sam and Nathan, can you tell us your name, your preferred pronouns, and your title, and maybe like how long you've been working at Riot?
Sure. I'm Nathan, he, him. I'm a security engineer at Riot, focused on defensive security, and I've been at Riot for around 5 months.
Hi folks, my name is Sam Garcia. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I have been at Riot for about 1.5 years, and I work as associate recruiter on the university programs team at Riot, running the Riot Summer Internship Program.
Today, we've prepared this workshop really with the goal of guiding you through Riot's unique approach to the interview process from start to finish. So everything from learning how to give you the best elevator pitch that you possibly can give, to really becoming a champion for and through the Riot interview process. So we're really excited for you to participate in some of the activities that we've designed and present the content. And we have, as I mentioned, 2 Rioters who are going to help support you through that. So before we get started and getting into the content, we wanted to tell you a little bit more about Riot. And I want to pass the mic over to Sam to be able to do that. You all have heard me give this pitch at previous workshops, and Sam is going to present it this time.
Thank you so much, Victoria. So again, thank you all so much for all of the folks that are joining us, maybe for the first time, for the folks that are coming back, maybe for a second, a third, a fourth workshop. That's awesome. We're glad to have you back. Probably a lot of folks that are familiar with Riot, perhaps the League of Legends IP or the Riot IP in general, wanted to kick this off with like a little bit of a trivia, a little bit of question answer. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about Riot. So let's kick this off by talking about, all right, so in 2021, so in last year's calendar year, how many monthly players stepped into the world of Runeterra? So Runeterra, of course, is the IP, the fictional world in which the majority of Riot's games are played. So I'm talking League of Legends, Wild Rift, our League of Legends mobile game, Teamfight Tactics, as well as Legends of Runeterra. How many, drop it in the chat, how many monthly users were there in Runeterra 2021? 250 million, 3. Awesome. I think around 180 million, 15 million, 2 million, 150 million, 20 million. Okay, these are awesome guesses, but Annie, you were right on the money. So it was 2021, 180 million monthly active players for jumping into the world of Runeterra, playing one of those 4 games. So that was an awesome money guess. Awesome job, Annie. And then the next question that I have for you all. So of course, we had our 2021 League of Legends World Championship that was hosted in San Francisco just a few weeks ago. Can anyone guess how many viewers around the world watched the League Championship earlier this month? Okay, let's go ahead and say 8 million, 10 million, 230 million, 7 million, maybe 5.7 million, more than 3, yes, 10 million, 10 million, 5.1 million. All right, well, some of these guesses are pretty on the money as well. Globally, and again, this is without the numbers coming directly out of China, because we are not able to assess the veracity of that particular viewership data. But apart from that, 5.1 million people around the world watch the 2022 League of Legends World Championship. And so this is just to illustrate a little bit about the breadth, about the love that is coming to Riot for games in general. Lots of people playing games, lots of people watching other folks play games, streamers, esports. It's a part of an ecosystem that we're all super excited to be a part of. Riot, of course, being a video game company, but we are proud to lead the way in being the most player-focused video game company in the world. So of course, Riot Games, we are hosted in Los Angeles, California. Me, myself, Victoria, Nathan, we're all here in the LA area working together. And then apart from the 3 of us, there are about 4,000 other Rioters around the world that we work with. And these are in global offices that are located both in the United States as well as abroad. And so a large team. This is a picture from a conference that we had as a company a couple of years ago. Actually, no, it was only earlier this year. It has been a long year, hasn't it? So a wide community, lots of love coming from all over the world for all of Riot's employees. And also want to talk a little bit about the things that bring us all together. So yes, there are so many folks that are located in offices all over the world. We also, as a company, offer what we call RIGs, or sometimes they're called employee resource groups at other companies. For us, RIGs are Riot inclusion groups, and these are different identities, different communities of folks that can come together to share community with each other, to get to know others within the company. I myself identify as both Filipino and as an Asian American woman. And so API at Riot, Filipinos at Riot, as well as a couple of the other rigs are a couple of other involvements that I personally have and where I have found community, especially as a remote worker that came in working in Riot about 1.5 years ago. And then much to what Justice was talking about at the beginning of her call, one of the most common questions that we get, and again, want to emphasize, do I need to be good at video games to work at a video game company? And the answer is no. You don't have to be super awesome at League and be, plat ranked and have to be like an esports, like professional level player. You can like to play ARAMs, you can like to play board games or Dungeons and Dragons, or like to watch esports, and maybe that's your engagement. That is a wonderful thing. And we at Riot just really pride ourselves in, again, being able to build that community and that player ecosystem, because we all know, understand, and enjoy how wonderful the player experience can be. And with that being said, I'm going to pass this off to my colleague, Nathan, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the elevator pitch. So Nathan, off to you.
Hey guys, so to get started, let's sort of keep it a little interactive. If you can type in chat to you, what to you guys is like an elevator pitch, and what makes like, what are like the important factors in an elevator pitch? Just sort of put it in chat. Okay, 30 seconds who you are. A hook that keeps your audience interested. I like that. Strong personal intro. Quick delivery of your main strengths as a candidate, tailored to your audience. I like that last part too, tailored to your audience. A short summary of yourself on your project. You would have enough time to tell someone, yep. Awesome. Yeah, these are great. Quick and brief intro. What you are passionate about and your goals. That's something that I am really like this thing about being passionate. Something that I was going to mention. 30 seconds about your skills, who you are, and what you can do for the company. Great. Can we go to the next slide? So let's sort of talk a little bit more about elevator pitch. So an elevator pitch essentially is, like, as a lot of you guys said, a short introduction, 30 to 60 seconds of who you are, what you do, skills, work experience, and what you want to achieve and your goals. And I sort of want to expand a little bit more on, what you do, skills, work experience. And some of you guys mentioned this. I think, a lot of times when you're talking to recruiters, in the past when I've talked to recruiters, a lot of them are always looking for, you to show your passion, right? Like, why are you applying for this company? Why do you want to work there? Why do you want to intern there? And, maybe showing some personal projects that you do that are related in the topic that you're looking to work in, or maybe some other classes that you've taken that are maybe really important. So, when you go into skills and work experience, make sure you really tailor that to, what you're looking to do. The next thing, the information in an elevator pitch can be used in a variety of ways, right? So obviously networking events, job fairs, LinkedIn profiles, personal websites, and resume and cover letters, and interviews. So I think another thing that I think, like, when you're thinking about elevator pitch, is try and keep it super casual. I think, if you make it like very professional and super like uptight, and it doesn't come out the best way. So try and keep it, free flowing a little bit, and make it nice and welcoming and whatnot. So that's sort of like my opinions on sort of elevator pitch. Let's move on to the next one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into a breakout room, and you guys are going to introduce yourself in a group, and we're sort of going to practice elevator pitches. You're going to do your name, education major, work experience, skills, and then type of job / career opportunity you're looking for. And then you guys are going to choose 2 people, Victoria, correct me if I'm wrong, from your group, and then you guys will share to the rest of us. Anything I'm missing there, Victoria?
We're all set. We might not have enough time to get through everyone's group, so we'll just ask for 1 or 2 volunteers from everyone who would like to share their elevator pitch with us. But now I'm going to go ahead and distribute everyone into their breakout rooms. We'll be in there for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and ask for 1 to 2 volunteers. All right, I'm going to send you off and open the rooms now.
Hey, y'all, just wanted to say hi. Thanks again for
John.
everything you guys are doing. This is so cool. And you have Justice and Julian and the crew running it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Cash. I go back a couple of years with Riot Games. We started a partnership at Johnson C. Smith University, the first HBCU to launch an esports program. And I've been partnered with Ryan and Chris and Julian since probably 2019 or something like that, when I met Ryan. But the most important thing is we were able to foster this relationship with Farah's leadership with Riot Games now and Cxmmunity Co. So we're very appreciative of everything you guys do. It was so cool. I had 5 students that actually interned at Riot 2 summers ago in the height of COVID. Instead of being able to go out to sunny Santa Monica, they were cooped up in their respective homes or what have you, but it was still a great 12-week internship experience. So they were very thankful, and we are very appreciative of that, as well as the continued support you guys give us in driving diversity, equity, and inclusion with HBCUs. So thank you again. I'm gonna go back to doing work.
Thank you so much, John.
Nice.
Yeah. I've been listening to all your introductions. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are all back now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. So did anyone, want to share their pitch? Anybody? We'll take like 1 or 2 people. Their elevator pitch.
I can go.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay, so my name is Adam King. I'm a physics and game dev student at ASU. And my work experience includes being a grader and a teaching assistant for the game dev classes at my university. I'm really adept at breaking down problems and simplifying them into more approachable states, because in physics you often encounter complicated systems. You have to do that. It's just part of the process. And I'm really interested in making a career in game design at Riot.
Nice. Yeah, I know. I really like that. I especially like the part that you mentioned about how you break stuff down, because I think that's really unique and that's something that's gonna pop. Not a lot of people hear that. So I like that a lot.
Awesome. Let's take one more. I saw and Taliana or Talina?
Yes, Thelina. Hi.
Talina, yes. Let's hear from you.
Alrighty. Hi, my name is Thelina. I'm a marketing major at the University of Central Florida. I'm the head of events for the American Marketing Association here. So ultimately, my job is to connect our organization with lesser known orgs, like volunteer orgs or small startups, to hopefully find some opportunities to volunteer with or to work with. And ultimately, what I do here at a small scale is what I would like to do at a much larger scale at a gaming org, which is to connect those gaming orgs and their communities with the right people, and hopefully to introduce it to people like myself who never really dove into the world of gaming until Valorant came out during the pandemic and everyone was playing and it was the only form of socialization. So yeah, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I loved it. I loved especially how you were able to connect your previous work experience and really tell your own story and your journey for your career path and kind of like where you've been and where you want to head and where you're going, and connecting that to a future opportunity. And then I loved how you also shared your experience in gaming that felt really true and authentic to your own story and your own entry point.
I'll plus one to that as well. The personalization of your story. And again, speaking to this industry, I talk to students a lot about video games is a small slice of any industry. And in the grand scheme of the grand timeline of time, it hasn't been around for very long. So being able to be specific about why this, opposed to any other field, is something that I could tell the authenticity in your experience and in your answer. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Let's take one more. Sam, do you want to pick this one?
Sure. I think Joseph was the one that was next. So Joseph, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Joseph.
Hi, my name is Joseph Hong. I'm a second-year grad student in RIT. I'm mainly contributing in production and project management. In game dev teams. I've been actively practicing on and researching on trying to create a flexible working system with my team members and the stakeholders that I'm working with. And I'm planning to learn how team members tend to work, so that I could kind of create a working schedule so that everyone's comfortable with. And I'm really hoping to learn more organization skills in a larger and more established group such as Riot Games, to foster my skills in production. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Well, thank you so much for volunteering. I like how I can tell your growth mindset and the things that you had brought up in your introductions of the things that you know that you're working on, the things that you're looking to attain in terms of skills and experience. And I also like that you had the call out about collaboration and working with other people. I can definitely speak for Riot, but for most companies in general, I feel like that's something that we are prioritizing, that we're always looking for people that are looking for the opportunity to collaborate with others and to make sure that that workflow works really well for yourself, of course, but with a group of people you may be collaborating with as well. So thank you, Joseph.
No worries, and thank you.
Awesome. And Sam, should we share screen for the next portion? Awesome. Yes.
Awesome.
So I'll go ahead and kick us off to talk a little bit more about interview best practices. So during a job interview, you're really going to come across multiple different questions that are really designed to gather certain information about you as a professional. So these types of questions, they're going to determine your qualifications, your experience, in addition to really assessing your personality and your work style. And it's really important because this helps us understand why hiring managers ask certain questions, because it can help you prepare your answers before an interview. So here we have identifying types of interview questions. So as I mentioned, you're going to come across many different interview questions. So the first one that you'll come across is kind of a general question. This speaks more to the opening interview questions. So opening interview questions really are open-ended. It's an opportunity to introduce yourself. So remember when we did the elevator pitches, this is an opportunity to really extend your elevator pitch and tell the hiring manager why it is that you're interested in this particular role and how it is that your previous experience and your background in your certain roles and volunteer opportunities, your education, like how has that led up to this particular role? So it's really an opportunity for you to get into your story and to let them know why it is that you're interested in this role in this company. And it's important to have a really strong and compelling story that really illustrates how everything in the past that you've done has led up to this moment. For an example, a lot of these questions will be, for example, tell us a bit about your work background, maybe give us a description of how this relates to this current opening. Another example is, what are the qualifications in your area of expertise? What skills do you have that make you the best candidate for this position? So that's kind of your general opening interview questions. Behavioral questions. So these questions are commonly asked about how you acted in a specific situation in the past. So they're really meant to assess, like, how is it that you reacted in stress? What's your skill level? How are you going to conduct yourself in a professional environment? The behavioral questions are questions designed to really get at that. So what has your behavior been like, say, at past workplaces or in school settings? They also allow the interview to get a much better sense and a much better understanding of you as a candidate. So typically you're going to be presented with a specific situation and you'll be asked to tell the interviewer what you did in that situation in the past. You're going to know that it's a behavioral question if, for example, they say, tell me about a time when you did this. Give me an example of when you had to and then fill in the blank. So that'll cue, that should be your cue that this is a particular behavioral question. So for instance, tell me about a time when you disagreed with a coworker, for example. So those are your behavioral questions. Subject matter expertise questions, commonly here at Riot known as your craft questions. So these questions are specifically really geared toward the role that you applied for, and these questions will be about your craft. So these will be an opportunity to give a deeper dive into the craft that you applied for. So for me, for instance, it would be questions that relate to partnerships and partnership strategy and diversity and inclusion, right? So for Sam, they would be, Sam, what would some of yours be?
So for me, I am a recruiter, but also I am in half the year, a program manager, program developer, a trainer. So being able to assess my skill sets on being able to create, positive stakeholder relationships and being able to manage, groups of students and through a curriculum for a couple of points of example.
Excellent. And for Nathan, what would some of your subject matter craft expertise questions look like?
I'd
As
say
someone who's more technical.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it actually would be like how you can learn fast, right? Like even like just starting, I just started, I've been here Riot for 5 months, and I can definitely say that I knew about maybe only 30% of what I knew before. Like I'm learning so much. So a lot of the questions I'd actually ask is like how someone learns on the fly, their motivation, stuff like that. And then on top of that, if I want to go really technical, then I'll ask a lot of like security-based questions or engineering or coding-based stuff, which is super technical. But I'd also be really curious more about people's thought process, because again, to me, it's not really necessarily getting the right answer. It's at how you got the answer and the learning to get there, right? So actually understanding, how someone's thinking through a problem, and stuff like that. So whenever I do interviews or I've had interviews, I always know that interviewers are always looking for, the process where you get the answer. So that's sort of my biggest advice whenever you're taking craft is make sure you're talking through your thought process. It's okay if you don't get the right answer. Just, talk about your flow.
Excellent. So situational questions. This is very similar to behavioral questions in the sense that it's going to ask you to assess how you react in a particular situation. But with situational, it's more about like the future. So situational questions are really meant to ask interviewers to explain like how would you react in a potential like hypothetical situation in the future. So maybe this is a situation that you've never experienced before. So they're really going to assess like, how did you react? What was your behavior in those kinds of situations in the future? So even though there's a slight difference, you can pretty much answer a situational question much like a behavioral question. So an example would be like, how would you go about communicating an unpleasant news to your team? Or how would you deal with a difficult client? And then finally, we have company values as a kind of particular category of interview question. So the values interview questions are really questions that ask about your morals and your professional standards and how you implement these in the workplace. So companies want to know that you embody the values they promote in the workplace and in the public. So they'll ask a series of questions that will get at this. My advice to you is to really get to know your company's values, do your research, right? If you apply for Riot, exactly. I saw Player First from Michelle. Really get to know Riot's values and take them seriously, and come up with some examples from your experience that really align with Riot's values. Anything else to add here, Sam and Nathan, about either values or situational questions?
No, I don't have too much.
Awesome. Okay, so next slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about the STAR interview method. How many of you have heard of the STAR method? Drop it in the chat. Ooh, I see a lot of yeses. Okay. from the yeses and even maybe from the nos, tell me like, what have you heard about the STAR method? And what essentially like what have you heard? Like, what is it? Whoops, sorry, I'm muted. I said I was reading through all of your wonderful responses. It's a structure that helps you answer your questions. Yes, you use it in interviews, be specific. It's a great way to demonstrate your skills. It's a formula to frame your responses. Yes to all of that. It's really a technique when you're answering your questions. It's a good idea, as I mentioned, to really answer these questions with a strong story or an example for every kind of question that you get. And sometimes when you're interviewing, you might forget to mention a key context, or maybe you have a tendency to ramble. I am certainly guilty of that in telling stories, right? So the STAR method is a particular technique that's a very straightforward format that you can use to tell your story or to illustrate your example with, as someone mentioned, those behavioral questions that you get, right? Like, tell me about a time when blah, 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 right? This is a technique that's going to help you ace this every single time. It's an interviewing technique that allows you, as I mentioned, to respond with a kind of structure and an organization to your stories and for your examples in a structured way by discussing the specific situation, your task, your action, and your result that you're describing. It's very straightforward, and this is really, as I mentioned, going to help you ace it. There's also particular cues when you can use the STAR method. So I've mentioned some of these already. Tell me about a time when, what do you do when, have you ever, ... Give me an example when, describe a situation. When you hear these cues, this should be your cue to automatically start thinking about the STAR method as a way to tell your story and give your example for the particular behavioral question that you'll receive. So for the situation part, right, your goal here is to paint a really clear picture of the situation you are in so that the interviewer can understand the rest of your question. So introduce the situation and really set the context for the interviewer. Task, the T part of the STAR. This piece is dedicated to giving the specifics of what your responsibilities were in that particular scenario. So really mentioning any objectives that were set for you before you dive into what you actually did. You want to tell us, like, what was your role in this project and what were some of those objectives? And then with the A, the action part, tell us, this is your chance to shine, like explain what you did and how you made a difference. And then for the result part, remember that interviewers don't only care about what you did, they want to know like why it matters, right? So end with the results. Make sure to really hammer home the point about any results you achieve. You can either quantify them when you can, because sometimes numbers can be really impactful, but you can also add, say, any long-term effects of your action, like, did you or your team develop a new way of communicating or completing a task? Did the contract with your particular client continue? Did you get, say, great feedback from a particular presentation that you made? Any way that you can really illustrate what the result was, right? You'll want to highlight that with the results. Anything else, Sam and Nathan, that you want to add here about STAR?
No, I think you said this really well.
Yeah, good job, Victoria. That was great.
Awesome. Okay, we'll move on to the next and the final slide here for the interviewing best tips. So as I mentioned, it's really, really important to get familiarized with companies' values, especially Riot's values. I saw someone type into the chat about the player experience first. One of the things that makes Riot so special, right, is that we have a shared set of beliefs and our values. And the first one is the player experience first. So we put players, and this is something that I've mentioned in my introductions, if you've been to previous workshops, at the center of everything that we do. Everything we create is for our players. It is our players that continue to inspire us and to go above and beyond. we share a love of games and we prioritize play as an important part of our lives and a part of this work. So that's the player experience first. Dare to dream. We believe that having the courage to chase bold ideas will make impossible dreams come true for our players. So this can mean really making bold ideas to advance the gaming landscape and innovating when there's potentially a better way to do something. And so we like to really encourage experimentation, and that sometimes means that we're not always going to get it right. So we recognize that failure is a part of the process and a part of the journey as well. Thrive together. So we believe that we're stronger when we respect each other, when we invest each other, and when we succeed as one team. We really want to approach every interaction with empathy and with sincerity and with respect, right? So we really try to cultivate inclusive teams that really bring out Rioters' strengths, and we hold ourselves to the highest standard of professionalism. Execute with excellence. We really believe in something called operational excellence, and we say that operational excellence will help us unlock and to deliver better experiences for the long run. So we do this by setting ambitious goals. We measure ourselves against results, and we're constantly working to improve. We do this also by collaborating across teams to really deliver holistic experiences to players and to Rioters, and even to our external community-based partners like yourselves, right? In my collaboration with Sam and Nathan and bringing them into this workshop so that we can help you succeed. And finally, stay hungry, stay humble. We believe that there's always more to learn from each other, from our players, from the world. We approach every single problem with optimism, with ambition, with curiosity, and we celebrate our wins from our failures. And we're really challenging ourselves to evolve and to recognize that feedback is an important part of the process and a part of the improvement. So get to know our values. These are our values. Curious to know from everyone, from the values that I just presented, if you can drop into the chat, like which one of these values from Riot do you feel most connected with? You can drop them in the chat just so we can see. Love this. Player experience first. I dare to dream. Dare to dream, definitely. Stay hungry, stay humble. Yes, a lot of stay hungry, stay humble. Player first. Wonderful. I love to see it. I'm going to pass over the mic now to Sam, who is going to round us off.
Thank you, Victoria. So I'm going to round us off. Definitely want to leave space at the end for questions. So I'm going to go through these a little quickly. So just again, a summary, of course, being able to prepare well for an interview, do your research, being able to practice your elevator pitch, your STAR method that you would use to answer those behavioral-based questions. A couple of other best tips as well. Always check your internet connectivity, especially if it's a virtual interview. Don't want to be glitzing out on a video call, so making sure that you have a stable internet connection. Also being familiar with the video platform that you're being asked to use, whether it's Microsoft Teams, is it Zoom, is it Google Meets, making sure that you have the latest version of whatever platform downloaded onto your device. That way you're not caught kind of like mid-update right when your interview is about to start. That's definitely happened to me personally, and also with other folks I've interviewed in the past. Also being able to find a quiet, well-lit location. We want to see your face. We want to be able to hear you. And of course, being able to reduce the amount of echo that may be happening in the room, or what your microphone may be able to pick up from your computer. So being able to use maybe a headset, maybe earphones, if that's something that would help us hear you better. And again, being able to be your authentic self, being able to be prepared with a couple of questions at the end are always good cherries on top as well. But those are just kind of a quick list of best practices of other things to take into consideration during the interview process. And then to round out with a couple of examples, I know that there are a ton of students on this call. I see undergrad students, I see grad students from a variety of different universities and colleges. Riot does have a summer internship program, and we actually have a whole other workshop dedicated next Tuesday with myself and Christian Sorrow, my other university programs colleague, that will be talking just about the internship program. But as a quick blurb, we have a summer internship program at Riot. It is paid, it is 12 weeks. It is for students that are currently enrolled in a university, college, or non-degree accredited program. And there are actually applications out right now for summer 2023 that we are accepting on our university programs website. There are a variety of different roles. Some of them are listed here. If the field that you're looking for isn't listed there, we actually just closed a couple of roles at the end of October, things like software engineering, game design, a couple of other roles as well, but those will open back up next year for summer 2024. And it will open on September 1st, 2023. So being able to bookmark that, if that is something that you are interested in as well. And then I'll drop links to that university programs website as soon as we are done. And then if perhaps you are graduated, you are mid-career, you are looking for a full-time opportunity, there's a wide variety of ways for you to explore the different kinds of opportunities that are available at Riot. For talking technical roles, art roles, how do I prepare for the full-time interview process? I will also drop links to all of these resources as well in the chat. That way you can feel free to peruse them after this particular workshop. And by all means, of course, we have the next workshop next week that we're working with community on to talk about the summer internship program next Tuesday. But I'll close that out. Justice, let's go ahead. Let's get some questions going in here.
Awesome. Yes, perfect. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Victoria. This has been amazing. So I've seen questions rolling in. So just to stay cautious of time, I'm gonna ask probably like 3, maybe 4, we'll see. So first and foremost, if most of your work experience has been outside of the field that you're applying for, would it be better to include personal projects throughout the years, or is it better to segue those different jobs into the current application subject?
That's a great question. I'll take a stab at that. Ideally, it's both. It's one of those things where it's definitely okay to pivot into different roles, into different areas, different industries. I myself have done that. Again, only worked at one video game company for 1.5 years, Riot, had to do a lot to pivot into it. But being able, if you have a North Star, if you have an idea of the kind of role, the kind of company, the kind of that you want to do, if you are consistently making choices to continually build skills and experience that eventually will get you to that North Star, I encourage you to continue to choose those kinds of opportunities. But in the meantime, yes, if you have personal projects that you have going on, if that's whether it's yourself, if it's with your friends, if it's a community game jam, being able to put those materials together can be something very, formal, like a website or an art station or a personal GitHub, what have you, but it can also be just a file of things that you're working on your computer. It doesn't have to be the super pristine, beautiful published piece of art to be a portfolio or to be a project. Just being able to see that you are consistently bettering yourself and learning new things, especially if you in those projects are demonstrating your particular interest in video games in particular. I don't know, Victoria or Nathan want to comment on that as well?
I just want to add one thing, which sort of I talked a little bit about during the craft interview. When you're doing your self projects and you're learning, you're basically teaching yourself, right? That's like in itself a very big thing. Like, let's say, you are maybe, I don't know, an engineer, but you wanted to go do art stuff. So you're learning a bunch of art things, you're learning graphics, learning how to use like Photoshop and other tools. And you teaching yourself that itself is like, shows a lot of motivation, shows a lot of hunger. And that's something that, says a lot. And then obviously, doing your own personal projects and showing that and like taking that to the next level, that's very impressive. But the fact that you're learning yourself and teaching yourself, that's critical because again, like I'll say, a lot of when you're working in a very technical role, a lot of stuff is learning stuff on the fly. So.
Yeah. And the last
no.
go ahead, Justice.
No, go ahead. It's all you.
The only thing I would add too is that going back to our networking presentation that we gave last week, like use LinkedIn too as an opportunity to engage in the industry if you've never had experience with it, right? Like engaging with Sam and Nathan, being a part of groups, writing LinkedIn posts about maybe some projects that you're working on, or like participating in the kinds of conversations that professionals are having within the industry. That is, to us, shows your interest in the industry. There's a way to track and measure that, that Sam receives on her side too, as far as like engagement goes on LinkedIn. And that's a really good way to get engaged and participate in the conversations. Again, if you've never even had experience before in the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna just give a very like minute example, being like a background of operations, project management, going into COVID, it was just kind of like, what can I do? How can I do it? So during that time, I got my certification in COVID compliance, which a lot of people did not have at the time, but because of that, it was kind of a door opener, which I don't have the necessary experience yet, but having had the courses, the training, now the certificate that you literally got online by doing like an 8-hour course, that then gave me the validity of when I did go apply for those jobs. People were like, okay, at least you have the certification, you have the background. So do the work first and foremost. I personally probably would say don't apply for something that you have never done before or don't have any background in. But when you do, 100%, please, refer that to your resume and make sure that that is shown of what you have been doing. Next question. How do we answer questions that we can't personally provide an experience for? Or in other words, what do we do when we're struggling to answer a question and figuring out how to relate to it in a timely manner? So it's very quick when we're in a resume, when we're in an interview, how quickly can I kind of provide that answer?
I sort of want to, if possible, I could answer this from a technical perspective if you have it in a craft interview, because I was actually just talking to my tech lead actually about this today. We're talking about interviews and how when you're interviewing in a craft interview, and some people, because everything's virtual right now, some people will actually Google answers, which is obviously not very good. Some people will also make stuff up and sort of just say things and try and make it make sense. And it's okay, at least in a tech aspect and a craft aspect, to not know everything, especially when you're doing a broad tech interview, which is going over a bunch of categories that there's no way you're expected to know everything. Like nobody knows everything. I certainly don't know everything. I'm learning new things every day. So it's okay to say, you don't know something. But obviously look into it yourself and be honest and say like, I don't know about this, but I've heard maybe a little bit about this, and I think I'd maybe approach it like this. So sort of put it in like a humble way. But yeah, that's from like a tech aspect. If Victoria or Sam, you want to take it from more of a behavioral.
Yeah, I would echo that too. Remember when we were talking about like the situational questions, like use that as a way to pivot and say like, first of all, be honest, like Nathan said. And I think that also shows like you also being humble in your honesty, that you don't really know, that particular question that they're going to ask you. But I think to Nathan's point, like approaching it from a situational lens and being like, here's my process for how I would potentially do it, right? Or mobilizing your previous knowledge or your experience as it relates to that particular question to go ahead and answer that through an approach for how you would potentially answer that question. And also the last thing I would add here is like, feel free to tell them, the interviewer, that you need a moment to process and to think about the question too. Like you don't have to rush into it. And I felt like that was something that I really enjoyed about Riot's interview process. Was I felt that I had that time in that space to be able to tell my interviewer, I need a moment to think about this question. And I actually had a piece of paper and I was actually jotting down some of my ideas. And then I was able to answer the question in a thoughtful way, even though I didn't necessarily have an answer to it at first. So feel free to let the interviewer know that you need a moment to think about it and to process, and that's okay.
Awesome. I'm just going to ask two last questions. This first one actually goes in parallel to what we were just talking about. But a few people have asked this question of, at the end of an interview, somebody usually asks you, like, are there any questions that you have for us? So a lot of people have asked, what are some good questions that you should be asking the interviewer themselves?
This is a really good one because I think it's like really important whenever you're interviewing to always have some questions like these prepped, because it shows that you're interested in the company as well as, I think the way I describe it is like you're seeing also if you're a good fit for the company because you're asking questions like about how maybe like, for example, how what a day-to-day looks like, what is a company more culture? You could more ask, what happens in certain situations, like maybe if someone's sick, how does work get assigned, if someone's sick, how do you deal with like different situations? So I come from a security perspective where you have like incidents and stuff, so a little different, but yeah, so I think it's like really important to sort of have these sort of things prepped, and I think a lot of it should be asking stuff so you understand more of what your daily responsibilities will look like, to make sure that also you yourself are comfortable and this is the right position for you.
Big plus one to that. I also would add on that I feel like a lot of folks are very mission driven, like in their search, that they want to know that their work is meaningful, that it's contributing to something kind of that they believe in, is beyond themselves to the greater company. So asking questions about the team's goals, ask about the company's goals. Where are we going in a year, in 5 years? I can speak for Riot. If you can look it up right now. So our CEO, Nicola Laurent, released a blog post in January of this year, basically outlining the big beats of what Riot is trying to do for the next 5 years. And that's not private information. That is something that any of you can look online right now. I can actually drop the blog link in the post and read exactly what we're trying to do in the next 5 years. And that's something, again, us being very player driven, player first, want to be transparent about what we're working on. And he gave another update like 6 months later in June. So he's like, hey, remember that stuff I talked about in January? I'm giving you an update. So he's not throwing it out there in the universe for no one to read and to not be held accountable. You can read those things. And if you're interviewing, for example, for a job at Riot, well, how does my role as a software engineer on Valorant kind of factor into the goals that the company is trying to achieve in the next year and the next 5 years? And that only, again, shows off a little bit that you did a little bit of research, but that you can very clearly outline for an interviewer that my skill set will help your team achieve those goals that your team and the company is trying to achieve. And that way, I mean, most interviewers you would hope would be able to kind of draw all those things together, but the easier that you can make it for them to understand your value, what they're trying to do, will make the interview even more effective.
Awesome. Okay, just one last one. How much value is placed on the interview compared to LinkedIn profiles, resumes, or portfolios? Right, good question. I know.
I mean, all pieces of that process is a part about getting to know a candidate. Obviously, kind of if you've been through the series up to this point, LinkedIn, a resume, those are the first introductory pieces of getting into the process. So being able to say this person seems like a good fit, on LinkedIn, or seems pretty good on paper, and then being able to have those conversations, to be your authentic self, to be able to fill out the resume and LinkedIn beyond what just words and picture can do. This is your chance to shine and to be really clear about what you're looking for. Again, being able, like your elevator pitch, being able to say, these are the kind of opportunities I'm looking for. This is how I think I can provide value. And this is what I would like to do for this position in this place in particular. So they're all equally weighted. But again, this is probably the most flexibility that one has in an interview process to really communicate yourself and your story in an interview process.
Awesome. So essentially, we have our loaded baked potato, we have our broccoli, we have our steak. All of those are meaningful in a good meal. But when we're talking about it, that steak, which is essentially the actual interview, that is the main point. We got to go ahead and get to it. Awesome. So majority of the questions that were other than the ones that we just asked are actually perfect for next week. which are talking more specifically about the Riot internships, talking more specifically about Riot and what that interview process is and how students can actually get into that pipeline of bettering themselves, bettering their resumes, their LinkedIn profiles, and also that just like networking before they get to actually applying for the interview. So if any of you had a question that you submitted that was specifically about the Riot internship program, hold them for next week. I actually already have them saved and highlighted for us to talk about next week. But if you have any more, feel free to go ahead and drop those in today because I will go ahead and highlight those as well. So don't want anybody to feel like I'm overlooking your questions. Every question is a meaningful question. We just are on a short time span today. But thank you to everyone that has joined on today. Thank you so much to our Riot team. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you so much to our community team for being on here as well. I hope everybody gained something that you did not know prior. Every time I'm on one of these, I gain something myself, so I already know that everybody else is as well. But these are highly skilled, highly trained professionals that are literally giving you one-on-one tips to get into this industry. And as we stated previously, before we even started all of this, there is not just one pathway to go into the gaming or esports industry. There are numerous pathways. That's why we bring in numerous professionals that work in those industries to say, hey, you don't have to be a security or data analyst. You don't have to be a game designer specifically. You don't have to be operations. Like there are too many levels and too many lanes for you not to be able to get into this. Let's just at least prepare you. Even if it's not Riot, there are numerous people that just want that education, that knowledge to say, hey, I at least can get into the industry based on the things that we all are providing to you. So thank you so much. Super excited for next week. As I said, next week is our last and final Fireside Chat for 2022, but so much more to come in 2023. But do not forget to join on next Tuesday, same time, same place, same link. So please make sure you share this out to your friends. Within this week, you also will be receiving this recording. So if you're on this, or if you actually signed up through our Eventbrite, you will be getting this recording as well. I've gotten a couple reach outs to say, hey, can I just have all of them? Yeah, by the end of all of these, what we're going to do is we're just going to send you all of them back to back so that you have that full, it's going to be a good amount of them. You're going to get about 6 to 8 different recordings, but that literally is going to set you up for success for the rest of your life. So thank you again to our Riot team. Thank you to our community team, and super excited to see you all next week.
Thank you. We'll see you next week, everyone.
Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you.